What's going on, everybody? BobbyFi with my man Eric Sheets-Haber, and I have to say it's been a really good 5 days for the True DFS group. Sheets got the fadeaway, the $1,000,000 one on Friday. He won the Sunday Monster. Rody wins the live ticket, which is 50K, and he finished fifth in the 777. And I took down the 777 for 100K, which, in all honesty, I just want to say, it's not the worst. I'm not saying it's the worst lineup, but it's the last lineup you'd expect to succeed. Like I was telling Sheets pre-show, I had 4 lineups with, I think, better scores that didn't win tournaments, like single entry ones that were smaller fields. And that never happens. I thought I didn't really have much of a chance, but I gave myself some pivotability. I did exactly what we talked about on air. I got very lucky with the Isaiah Jackson in one sense, but at the same time, I thought I was very unlucky at first because I had 1,000,000% Isaiah Jackson. I cashed in some lineups, and I believe you did as well, right? With the Isaiah Jackson?
I did.
And anyway, it was a really fun night. I feel really, really, really happy about it. I'm really happy to get that win. And
well, first of all, I would like to. I seeded my my screen share because I want you to share your screen to pull that up in a minute. But I just want to say something. You know, we've talked about this before, in that, you know, you go through certain stages of your life, and people think, oh, you're bragging about this, that, and the other thing. You're celebrating. Well, let me explain something. I when I grew up, I used to like celebrate everything, whatever. And then I went through the stage of life where I became like Barry Sanders. You know, I became the guy whenever I go into the end zone, flip it to the ref. You know, whatever it is, you know, don't make a big deal of it, because there'll be ups and downs. You don't want to over celebrate because whatever. And you get a little bit more, I guess, mature is the way you can describe it. Maybe older, whatever it is. I've come around again, because, you know, glory is fleeting, man, and you just never know when you're going to get another one. You better freaking enjoy it. You know what I mean? Like, you just better enjoy it. You can't just he always hand the ball off to the ref, because one day you hand the ball to the ref and then you'll never get the chance to hand it off to the ref again, you know? So I fully embrace full outright celebration of anything like this. So I am totally in there. If anybody thinks that's in bad taste, then just turn off the TV, because I am totally into it.
I appreciate that, man. And I feel the same way. I think you really got to celebrate in this thing, especially because, like you said, you don't know how it's going to go. You don't know if it's like that quarter of a point makes all the difference. It's really crazy. I actually, because it's a brand new computer and I haven't done my share on the Zoom yet, they're going to make me reopen my computer before I can do it.
Oh, so I should try to find it then.
Do you mind just going to the 777?
Yeah. So what I'll do is I will be able to share my, because I cashed in that one. With Isaiah Jackson, so we'll start by pulling that one up. Here, let's see.
Yeah.
Okay,
oh man, that was wild. It was a wild night. The truth is that
hold on, let me pull it. Okay, ready? Share screen. So this is the tournament. Okay, I think we bookended the. No, we didn't actually. I didn't get last. I got 93rd, which is healthily
good actually.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Yeah.
I went for the Mobley at 8%. I had Marcus Smart at 2% up at the top. So I was able to, and I had the same, you know, Chetty Osmond bust that everybody had. So it didn't really bother me.
That's incredible. We basically had the same other line. It's almost the same as my other lineup on DK, exactly.
Well, except you had the Trent Taylor or whatever.
No. I had played 2 777s. My other one had Smart. So we were a big percentage of the Smart owners. Had right. Smart in that game a little bit, but everybody else was pretty similar. Anyway,
so let's pull the wood by the like they say in the riddle, by the hair of the chinny chin chin. Yeah. But I'll just go over the sweat just because I was sweating. Bobby wasn't really in there, you know, but I was totally in there. So after the first bunch of games, he had 2 players left, and he was right near the top with all the PMR. Now there were people behind him, whatever, but I really thought that he was, you know, that he was a favorite to win at that point. And you know, I know Bobby. There's no way I'm coming out and congratulating him. There's no way I'm saying, dude, you're gonna win this. I know better than that. You know what I mean? Just like when Bobby comes and say, congrats on the fadeaway when I had like 800 people still to fade. You know what I mean?
But I was reverse jinxing you that time.
Right, exactly. So anyway, so I didn't want to bother him. I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to say anything, you know, whatever it is. But I was like looking, and I saw that there was another guy that had the exact same amount of points. with 2 spots left. So I just presumed that I was, Bobby will correct me. I thought they just had the same decisions to make. And I was wondering what Bobby was going to do, but I didn't want to bother him. I want to let him do whatever. So anyway, because he'll pick that up in a minute. And then, Bobby kind of like faded away for a little while. Norman Powell, who he ended up having, had a rough first half. And I thought that he might be able to come back and get in the top 10 or something like that, but not really. And then Norman Powell started to go freaking off in the third, fourth quarter a little bit. And then I saw Bobby was back in like the top 5. And I'm like, maybe he can like get there 3rd or 4th or something like that. And then I kind of like turned it off a little bit, and they came back, and I saw that he was like in 2nd, just like really just right on top of him with like a minute to go in the game. As a matter of fact, all he needed was Norman Powell to get like a single basket, and that would be the end of it, right? Because no one else was coming, no one else was whatever, unless it was overtime or something. So I'm just waiting for whatever. And for the last like 4 possessions, and it was basically garbage time. They weren't winning.
Yeah, they were trying to make a miracle.
They were trying to come back. So Anthony Simons would take the ball out, try to run it up the court, make it 3, or to drive it to the lane. I'm like, dude, could you freaking pass the ball just one freaking time? And every single time, Simons. I'm like, you've got to be freaking kidding me. And I'm like, Bobby's literally going to kill himself, right? And now I got Bobby like commenting that Will Barton might have gotten gypped out of a double bonus.
Yeah, they gave it to him, and then they took it away a few minutes later.
Right. So I'm like thinking, can we just get this win so we don't have to worry about that? And then the very last freaking possession, Norman Powell gets it. The Red Sea parts, goes right in for the layup, and all that had to happen in the last 45 seconds was basically not a miracle overtime or the ultimate humiliation if like somehow Norman Powell got the ball again and like turned the ball over. And that's happened as well, AKA Garrett Temple. So he was able to pull it out. And look, Bobby's been doing this a long time. I knew that there was no really stat correction that was going to get him, but Bobby's seen this so often. He's like, dude, unless they pay me, I don't want to hear it. Like no congratulations till it's in my freaking account. You know what I mean?
You're the only person I said that to, but I did tweet right after the game's locked. Yes. I said, I'm tired of it. I've had the stat corrections kill me before. I'm tired of waiting. I'm just going to go for it. I think I don't see how.
I'm calling my victory.
Yeah, sorry. No, but it was great. I mean, if you don't mind clicking on the lineup, I actually did want to talk through real quick because I thought that the most interesting thing was so obviously I went for the game stack, and now people will argue what size a game stack is. 4 players.
Let's start with the Trent Taylor. I mean,
well, that's the Trent Taylor. I got lucky, very lucky with the Josh Jackson injury in this lineup, obviously overall for
Isaiah Jackson,
excuse me. The Isaiah Jackson I had in about 60% of my lineups and 75% of my high buy-ins. I had Trent Taylor in full 40%, but only 1 high buy-in, 2 high buy-ins. And I got lucky with the injury. I still maintain that it was a very good play because it was a guy no one was going to go to with a massive ceiling who just put up 28 the game before. And they're going to need to play 2 bigs. And I thought he'd actually get minutes with with Isaiah Jackson, and nearly played them together because of Orlando's front line size. Anyway, that was why I got to that one. I was actually shocked because there was some buzz about him going on that no one played him except for that it was the first game. And then, maybe sometimes there was going to be more value to open up, which there clearly was. And this was not the perfect lineup by any means. Also, this game didn't nearly get into overtime, which I thought after the Luka game went into overtime and Luka got his extra 15 fantasy points or whatever it was, I thought I was dead. But I ended up having two big outs. And my original, I had a bunch of different things I could do. My original thing was Conley and Mitchell, Davion Mitchell, with Fox out. Then I could have switched over to Forrest and Halliburton. All of them would have put me in the top like 6 or 7, I think, but wouldn't have won it. But I did. I'm proud of myself. I finally did what I said I was going to do. I talk about sticking to your guns. I keep putting it in the side tournaments, and that's why I win the $40 or the $100 single entry or the 200 or whatever that's been going on, the 88. This keeps happening to me this year. But this time I said, no, I'm going to play it in the big one. I'm going to leave Powell in. I also could have afforded Simons, and I left 200 on the table to do that. So I took the Powell back to LA narrative, and I rode with what I believed. And if you look at it, Norman Powell takes more shots when he's in LA than he does anywhere else. And if he gets going, he keeps it going. And that really pulled it through for me, because anything else I did, any other combination does not get me first place. with the spots I had left. So I wasn't like so proud of what a genius I am for making that decision. I was very proud of the fact that I stuck with my guns for once, and it really paid off. So I'm thrilled about that. As you can see, I mean, I by the end of the Cleveland game, I was pulling my hair out because of I knew I was off to a great start with the Dinwiddie, Kuzma, Embiid combo, even with Harrell. You know, it really looked like that game could have gone to overtime, and it's a whole separate thing. But I was really just I was fortunate. I ran really good, but I was proud to make decisions I thought that were pretty logical. And I watched a lot of other lineups out there last night with that had similar type of things. That the ones that did have the Kuzma, Embiid, Dinwiddie, almost all had Gafford or like 3 other players from that game. It was like the big T stack where you just stack 7 players and hope for overtime. But I don't know. I felt really good about the process. I thought we talked about all these guys while we were on air, and just really happy to take it home.
Yep.
And with all that said, I guess we can jump into tonight. Sorry for the long intro, but I thought that was a pretty good one. So I'm pretty pumped, man. And I appreciate the support from all you guys, including you, Sheets. And you want to jump into it?
Do me a favor, just pause this for just a second.
No problem. We're gonna get into tonight's slate with all that done. And again, I really do appreciate the support from everybody in chat, on Twitter, on our Discord, and everything. And it was really, really nice. So with that said, let's get back to work and try to do it again if we can. So it's a 6-game slate. There is a million questionables, but I think we got some in the news already this morning, which it looks like Lowry and Butler are going to play.
Okay.
Which is why I told everybody in Discord, hey, go ahead and get your Miami bets in over.
Excuse me, how did Memphis do last night?
They won, right? They won pretty handily.
Yes.
There you go. You're on fire with these picks.
That's it. Okay.
I love it. All right. Well,
I just got to remember to post it, because if you don't post it, it doesn't count.
You got. You know what? You got to at least give us another one by the time we're done.
Okay.
Well, only if you have one, because you said you only like to do.
Yeah. Only if I like it.
Okay. So Minnesota -7 at Detroit. This is a high scoring game that we still have Russell and Beverly questionable. I'd be very surprised if Beverly doesn't play. And on the Detroit side, you have Cade Cunningham and Josh Jackson questionable. I would lean more towards Cade playing and Josh Jackson not, but possibly both sit. Sheets, what are you looking at in this game, assuming that we're basically a go or without Russell?
This is very interesting, because I didn't know that the Cade Cunningham was questionable. Because what I was going to say is that Jeremy Grant is back and only 6,500, and he looked to be kind of an okay play anyway. Yeah. I mean, if Cunningham is out, I mean, that's the chalk. I mean, like that's I imagine that he's going to be almost a lock, unless there's some minutes restriction I don't know about.
I would say not a lock, because of they have a lot of guys who are sort of interchangeable, and there's a lot of like Grant has games where he just doesn't do anything but like score, and he's not like a setup guy. So I hear you though. They're definitely both interesting. Go ahead, Sheets.
And here's another guy that I haven't played in a while. But I'm just now speculating if Cunningham is out. Are we going to get more minutes from Diallo, who we used to get like a couple of weeks ago? And he's only 4,400. I don't know. I really didn't even think about it. I was gonna say that Jeremy Grant and pretty much nobody else, and maybe not even Jeremy Grant, but telling me that Cunningham is questionable, we definitely have to monitor that.
Yeah, if he doesn't play, I think that you'll see Corey Joseph become one of the chalkier plays.
Okay.
Potentially, your guy Killian Hayes, I don't know if he'll be popular, but he could be an actual play. Diallo would be in play, but it's hard to know. The minutes are sort of scattered because Olynyk's back with Grant back. There's a lot of bodies still. I basically have mostly interest in Cade and a little bit of interest in Jeremy Grant because the matchup is really good. I don't mind if people want to play Sadiq Bey, Kelly Olynyk, Isaiah Stewart. All those guys are fine with me. I just don't feel like that's what I'm probably going to do on this slate. What do you think of the Minnesota side?
Yeah, I think Cat is in play every day. Beverly would be my value guy.
Yeah,
and I guess it's kind of silly not to say that Edwards is in play every day also. I have Russell as in. You don't. What do you have? It's questionable.
I have Russell as questionable, but I think that it's likely that he plays. But they're on a roll, which could go either way. You know, do you give them an extra day, or at the same time, do you keep going strong and try and really, beat the hell out of all the teams you're supposed to beat? So it's a little up in the air.
So I think Cat's fine. I mean, no problem with that.
Yeah, I just want to point out that. So I noticed the other game pretty heavily the other day because I did play Beverly in one of my big buy-ins that was doing pretty well, and I was wondering why he was missing minutes, and then I was like looking at the way the game flowed. He basically, like, the bench was just massacring. I mean, it was a blowout anyway, so you kind of want to throw that away. And Beverly actually, he put up 24 fantasy points in 15 minutes, but I think that his minutes are going to be. He's projected now for 26. I think there is a range of 24 to 36 that he's in, which is really a weird range. But I mean, it really could go either way. He also was in foul trouble at one point, I believe, the other night, if I'm not mistaken. There's a lot of stuff going on with this one. I don't actually know about the foul trouble anyway, but I do think that Beverly has had higher usage this year. If there's no Russell, especially, but even if there is a Russell, I think I would take a shot there. I don't know if I'd want to get my value in early, but Jalen Noel would be the other guy I would consider for early on. And then I like the idea of playing one of Towns or or Edwards at low ownership in a great matchup. I think that if Russell plays, they're going to be really low owned. And if he doesn't play, I think they're going to be lower owned than they should be, even though they're going to have ownership. So I'm into one of those guys. I would lean Cat. But if I played two lineups, I probably would split them up if I was going, as of right now, if we had no Russell. If we do have Russell, I don't know. It's the only thing that scares me is their bench is capable, and like their bench like really exploded the other day, which is why they blew him out. And Taurean Prince had the game of like all games, and you could not play Taurean Prince, but he played 24 minutes and 48 fantasy points, and I made 6 threes, and that's why they sort of blew out the I can't remember who they were playing, but Denver. Anyway, but I do like to Cat or Edwards. I'll figure out exactly how much by the time we get through this slate. It's a funny slate because I actually think that like it's odd to see like Steph is going to be the mega chalk and is the highest projected player on the slate points wise. It's pretty rare when that happens with Steph. I just feel like there's always a lot of other routes we can go, even though he could go off. To play him at chalk, in some spots just feels a little bit wrong to me, even though it's a great matchup. Anyway, we'll get into that when that game comes up. But what do you think about Phoenix and Atlanta?
What we could do, by the way, we could tell our grandchildren one day that we were able to play Chris Paul like sub 8K for like weeks.
For years.
Yeah.
No joke. Legitimately for years.
Yeah, and now not anymore. Now he's 9,700. Atlanta is pretty much Coors Field, but the first thing that you have to think about in this whole game is whether Trae Young plays, because he was questionable, but he wasn't doubtful. I mean, like we thought he was going to play.
He was on the field practicing before the game.
Yeah, and I'll say this. I mean, if he could possibly play, I mean, this is a game that they want him to play. This is a big game for the fans too. I mean, this is a huge game. I mean, the Phoenix coming to town. I mean, who would have thought of that, right? Mm-hmm. As a matter of fact, I mean, if I get the go ahead that Trae is back, I mean, I don't know what the spread is. I think Atlanta's very live in this game. I just don't know. I don't know what's going on with Trae. What's the line right now? Phoenix by a couple of points.
Phoenix by 4.
Yeah,
which makes it feel like Trae would play. I mean, just for the record, so everybody knows out there, Phoenix has been like they're having one of the all-time great seasons. They started the year 1-3. They're 41-9, and so they've basically gone 40-6, and they've done most of it without one of their 3 best players, which is Ayton and another starter in Crowder. So they've been really, really, really good. So anyway, yeah, I mean, just to throw that out there.
Ayton is probable for this game.
I think Ayton's going to play. I think that everybody's going to play for Phoenix, and I actually do think that boosts down these guys a little bit because, look, it's not a big slate. There's a lot of guys you can go for. This feels like a really good attack Devin Booker spot to me. I think it's a great matchup, and I think he or Paul. I think Paul's especially a good play, obviously, if Trae's in. Booker just has the upside to go completely nuts whenever he wants to, but did lose. Will use a little bit of his usage going forward. I mean, he was having games in the mid 30s of usage. He had a couple 40+% usage games. I don't see that happening as often with Ayton and back in the mix. And even Crowder, who doesn't do much offensively, just stands to shoot threes. It's not like Booker's a huge shot creator. So for others, but I do think that he's got the upside to score 40 real life points in this one. And I think that he's a really good play. I think he's going to be pretty popular. So I'm trying to figure out ways to get around it. I think the low owned one is going to be Deandre Ayton. I don't like the matchup individually. I like the matchup in general, just because of the pace. So I think there's an upside for him here. In general, I don't usually love to attack Capella, but this year has been a little bit different. And I think that, on the Atlanta side, like, it's a terrible matchup for Trey, but the fact that Chris Paul and Trey could be almost at the same price and Chris Paul would be 10 times the ownership just feels wrong. I mean, Chris Paul, literally, they do shut down point guards. Like, they do a really good job of it, but I think he's in play as another guy. So I think there's potentially a Booker Trey thing you could do tonight that makes a lot of sense, assuming that Trey is a go.
I got a couple of other things for you.
Yeah.
What is going on with the guy on my screen?
With Bridges?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to have some moments like that. We talked about earlier in the year, the general went 40 games without like showing a ceiling really, and then puts up 49 and 40 in the last two. I mean, red hot shooting, good rebound rate, still very low usage, although it was higher a little bit than it usually is. Definitely the good kind of a matchup for him. I don't think I'm going to get to it, but
no, I'm not doing it at 6,400. I'm just saying,
it's an interesting thought on a slate like this, not without knowing what's going to happen. Just if you're trailing or something and you've got an obvious line, I don't know. I just think you could say all these guys are in play, but I probably would just stick with it is pretty crazy. I would probably just stick though with the CP3, Booker, Trey mix. And if Trey is out, I hope they'll go back to not starting Bogdanovic again, and I will be all over Bogdanovic if Trey is out. Regardless of if he starts, I'll just play him at chalk. If he doesn't start, I'll play him as an off the board, whatever. And then DeLon Wright would be back in our lives in a major way at 3,600. So that's it. How about Chicago and Toronto? What do you got here?
The usual guys, Vooch and DeRozan, but not really. Toronto, I mean, they were all healthy. Toronto, you got Siakam and Van Vliet will play 74 minutes each, so they're in play as usual. There might be some kind of weird. I was listening to this on the radio. I was listening on something, on satellite or something on the way over here. I didn't really get the impetus of it, but is it possible that one of the Toronto guys made the All-Star team and the other didn't or something? Whether it be like either Van Vliet or Siakam, but not both, or something like that.
I missed the All-Star thing.
Yeah, there's something,
okay.
and I think people were saying that Siakam might have fallen off, and he's been playing really, really well. Maybe that's a little narrative if that's in fact the case. I have to do a little bit of research on that, but both of them are, they're playing a zillion minutes and they're playing well, so they're certainly in play. And then you got like the hottest shooter in the universe, I guess, the Gary Trent. I don't know if I want to do that, but certainly has possibility of going off. And that's pretty much it.
He goes, I mean, like, it is weird. It's sort of the anti thing we're supposed to do in tournaments, right? Like chase the guys who are just red hot. But he's taken 10 or more threes now in 6 straight games. That's a lot. And if you're going to take 10 threes, you're going to have a shot to make a bunch of them, especially against a defense that's missing its 2 best defenders with Ball and Caruso. So I don't know. I really like Trent, and I've been on him lately. I think I would continue to ride him, but probably at his ownership. Like, let's say I was playing 3 big lineups, which is probably what I'll do on DK tonight. I think he'll be in one of them. I think that Fred VanVleet will be in at least one. And I think Siakam will be in at least one. I think Anunoby will be in at least one. And sometimes they will be together. And I will run it back with take your pick. My first thought would be Vooch. My second thought would be DeRozan. And my third thought would be Levine on DraftKings. I would prefer Levine on FanDuel. I believe he's still around 8K over there. I'm just double checking the prices. Why is it not updating? Anyway, I'll get to but I believe Levine is a little bit cheaper over on FanDuel than the others. 77, yeah. So Levine on FanDuel I like quite a bit, even though he hasn't had a game in a little while. So I like this game. I think this is you're going to get a lot of minutes and a lot of usage from your main guys, and I also think Kobe White's in play on FanDuel, by the way, at 4,800. But I really think that you want to get some pieces of Toronto, and I'm not going to set this every day, but for slates like this, I'm probably going to usually have one Toronto player in every lineup, or most of my lineups as of right now. All right, Miami, San Antonio. We do think that we're going to get Butler, Lowry in. I don't have the further news yet, but Sheets, what is your take on this game, assuming that's the case? Because we have a questionable DeJounte Murray and we have no Thad Young. I'm sorry, no Jakopoto.
And no Lawndale or the other one too. Yeah.
Right.
So Miami, assuming they're all in, I like Butler and Bam a little bit. Not great. You know what I mean? Like as usual. I mean, they're probably going to have good games because they always do. So they're really good and they're reasonably priced. Bam has been moved up a little bit. I mean, he was like sub 8K, but he's still fair. I mean, nothing great, but nothing bad either. And on San Antonio, yeah, I mean, the guy who's rating right now as the top overall points per dollar play on the slate is Drew Eubanks at 3,300 because the other centers are out. So we're gonna have to figure that out. It wouldn't be the first time that a chalky San Antonio center failed, but I don't know exactly what else they're gonna do. The guy that you kind of like slipped on when you thought he was out is the other guy that has to be considered, and that's Thad Young. At a flat 3K. This is the type of game where, I mean, like if those other guys are out, you're probably going to get run.
Right.
And it's flat 3K. I mean, you have to think that one of those guys, Eubanks or Thad Young, we're going to be able to do something. So if DeJounte Murray is in, I mean, he's going to project well. I just don't like playing guys against Miami like that. I just don't. With that said, I mean, there's going to be low owned probably as a result. Let him be questionable right up until game time and have him play. It's probably your best path to playing somebody like that. And that's pretty much it. What do you think of Drew Eubanks? What do you think of this whole thing?
Yeah, I'll bite on the Eubanks thing. I really don't know. Like you said, I don't know what to do, what they'll do without playing him. I mean, to match that up with Bam for a whole game won't happen. But whichever, I mean, I'm assuming Eubanks will start. Either way, I'll have interest in who's ever starting and probably who's ever coming off the bench.
Yeah.
But I do think Keldon Johnson is like big enough that maybe you could argue he could physically compete a little bit with Bam. And you also have Juancho Hernan-Gomez who may get steal.
I thought about that. Yeah.
So I it's really going to depend on how the starting lineup shakes out, but it's always nerve-wracking with the Spurs chalkiness. The guys who I'm more settled in with are Derek White and Keldon Johnson, whether Murray plays or not. I feel pretty good about both those guys. And then I like Vassell a little bit as well, but I'm going to have to wait to see on this one. The Murray news is big, but also even the McDermott news is big. So we just have
a lot of minutes.
Yeah, because that'll give Vassell make Vassell even a better play, make Lonnie Walker a good long shot play. It's not a huge slate. And I just want to throw out here that Kyle Lowry hasn't been out with an injury. He's projected to play 31 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and say that all the numbers are off unless he really needs conditioning, which is never Kyle Lowry's thing, really, at least not since he was sort of pudgy. So I think there's usually he'd be slated in for like 36, 37 minutes here. He's projected for 31. He's going to be popular on FanDuel at 6,200. I love him over there. But I mean, I really think he's an awesome play on DraftKings at 7,300 in a matchup that we know, like as good of an individual defender as Murray is. The Spurs just give up tons of fantasy points to the point guard position and both guards, actually, even though White's a good defender as well. It's partly because of no rim protection really behind them. But I think that Lowry is like the first, that's way off the board. And then also what you can do is, depending on what Jimmy and Bam's ownership are, because if theirs are low too, I'll take shots on all these guys against a San Antonio team that just gives up tons of fantasy points. And even Hero, no one's going to play. I'm looking for the no one's going to play guys on a slate like this, because it is going to end up being, by the time we get the news, I think you're going to end up seeing a lot of very similar builds. So those guys are my sort of get off the board guys.
Ready to move on?
Yes, let's do it.
So I'm afraid one thing that I did do in the stream last night, which I'm afraid to look. So I bubbled that 2K thing on FanDuel. But forget that. I had a lineup which I took out that I didn't play that had the aforementioned Nicholas Claxton in the center position
Oh my God, Chiefs. I guess apologies are in order.
No, that's fine. On FanDuel of all places, paired with like LaMelo Ball and like point guard with 60 freaking fantasy points over there. I'm literally afraid to see what would have happened. Thankfully, I lost the sheet I had where I had that lineup pulled up because I don't know what the rest of it was. I'm going to tell myself that I had Isaiah Jackson just for fun. Otherwise, I don't want to know what happens.
Right.
But I bring it up because the other guy that I was kind of going back and forth with was the Me Too guy from San Antonio. There were the three guys that kept coming up was the Claxton, the Me Too, and the Kessler Edwards. I ended up just Xing them all. But anyway, so Sacramento against Golden State. Again, same story, right? We got to figure out who's playing for Sacramento. Holmes again might be just okay. Mitchell. It depends on who plays. Me Too again at 50 at 3,900 looks to be solid, solid enough. But nothing really stands out on the Sacramento side. And on Golden State, I don't need to play Curry. I actually don't even have him as like that chalky. But you could be right.
I'm guessing there's going to be value enough that makes him.
Yeah, I mean, I got him as a play, but it's nothing like. I mean, to give you an example, like I have him scoring like maybe one fantasy point more than DeJounte Murray,
right,
and maybe 2 fantasy points more than another person, which you're going to get to a little later. But yeah, so I don't think he's a priority for me. I mean, he's fine. I mean, he's one of the obviously a good spend up. But listen, how many times the guy got a bust before we? I mean, look, he didn't bust a couple of games ago, whatever. But I don't need to play him if I don't have to.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with the ownership and stuff as the day sort of progresses. But I mean, I like Curry in this matchup. My weird call is that I think this is the breakout Clay game. I don't think he's going to get any more minutes. But if you want a team, first of all, he already scored 60. I mean, I know it was years ago, but it's basically the same exact team that he scored the.
This is that game. It's that game.
And he had the 37-point quarter and the 60 whatever points with 11 dribbles.
That was like ridiculous.
This is that same kind of Sacramento team though. And the weird thing is like you don't have to worry about the blowout run so much with him because he's probably they're getting him back in his minutes, right?
Right.
He's gonna play like 24 to 28, probably 28 would be the ceiling, but 27 is probably the sweet spot. And in that time, like I really feel like this could be, I mean, you could see a 30+ real life game from him. I think this is the kind of matchup you want him, especially on DK because of his 3-point shooting. This is the kind of matchup where maybe we get Clay made, you see Clay made 8 threes last night kind of a game. This feels like that kind of a matchup. And it is a really tough matchup for Sacramento on the back-to-back. If you want to assume the game stays close, I think with Fox, I'm struggling with what to do here because he hasn't played since January 19th. I don't know that he's going to play. There's a lot of trade rumors about him, but if he doesn't, which has happened every day, and people have sort of had to late scramble because of it, maybe trying to, if you're multi-entering, maybe playing the Fox is just going to be out narrative or not narrative, but the reality is a reasonable way to go because all the reasons why everybody projects poorly and then all of a sudden they project really well is because of De'Aaron Fox. And sure, they haven't gone nuts, but like Davion Mitchell would be a great play without Fox. Assuming this game was even reasonably close, he's been the last 4 games without Fox. He's been at basically at 30 every game, 29.75 or higher every game. That's a nice little 6X. The one who no one will play but could keep them in the game is Buddy Hield. And the one I like the best is I will continue my narrative revenge-ish stuff. Harrison Barnes, even on the back-to-back, I think at 6,100 and on FanDuel at 50 whatever, I think he's going to be really popular. But so that's the only thing sort of slowing me down because playing a really chalky Harrison Barnes maybe is not necessary. And then so basically in order of my favorites, I like Barnes. I guess I still do like Barnes, Halliburton, Mitchell, Halliburton more on FanDuel, of course. Because of the price, but I still think he can get there if the game stays close. If the game stays close, he's going to have to do a lot. Somebody's going to have to on this team because this feels in the second half of back-to-back like an absolute blowout at first glance. But this is the NBA. You never know what's going to happen. And I do like Metu, and I would consider taking. Well, I won't play Damian Jones, but I do like Metu a little bit, just because of the rebounding upside. If again, you just got to hope they miss a bunch. And I really like Clay, and I'll mix in Steph depending on his ownership.
Yeah, and by the way, your Buddy Hield play, I mean, it certainly makes a lot of sense. Once if Golden State gets it rolling with their threes, Buddy Hield will be all too excited to try to hoist up a bunch of those himself. So,
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. So it's been a while for him, but on this kind of slate, we could take a look at the guys like that, but also we all know the ceiling is still there. Like he just has to get hot, basically. Lakers and Clippers. What are your thoughts here?
So I can't imagine why I would do this, but you have Chris Paul at 9,700 against freaking Atlanta, or Booker at 9,300 versus Atlanta, and I can't imagine this guy hasn't really done it. Had a couple of games, but I kind of want to play Westbrook at 9,600. That's kind of what I want to do. Maybe Curry will get maybe he's a better play. I don't know. I just kind of want to do this. Westbrook does project well. It's not going to be completely off the board or anything like that, but I just kind of have a feeling that it's time. It's the best way I can describe it, and he projects well also. So I do like him a lot. Obviously Davis is good too, but I think I prefer. I don't know. I think one of the two you probably should play, and I would probably play 70% of Westbrook, 30% Davis if I was gonna do it. And then on the Clipper side, I will, just for fun, I'll maybe run it back with Reggie Jackson or something like that, just to get something going. And something to do at 10 o'clock while people are sweating Curry. Maybe sweat that other game.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to do in this game, and I think also you're going to get some advantage from starting lineups. We could find out about the De'Aaron Fox news. It's the same thing as yesterday. That really, I mean, if we really had optimized it and really, played all the late games, you could have really gotten just a great lineup just only with late guys. And today it's going to be somewhat similar. I think that there is a lot to do in this game. Also, Anthony Davis on back-to-backs, we never know what's going to happen, but I'm assuming the Lakers in the mode that they're in are going to try to win this game. I feel the same way about Monk, who's got the question mark. If people shy away from Monk, I think that's a mistake because he had a bad game. Like you're just going to get this from him. He's going to be a guy who can get you 50 and a guy who can get you 20 or 15. But I'm willing to embrace that. And by the way, my call of the night last night, or one of my calls, earlier we talked about it, and somebody else had the Carmelo stuff. Carmelo was unbelievable against his former team, and he made like every shot basically. But he put up 43 fantasy points and was on some of the lineups I was contending with. So that was kind of funny.
Bobby, the fact of the matter is, if you played, Carmelo, if you split ownership between Carmelo and Malik Monk like every day, you're probably doing well.
Agree with you. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it seems like one or sometimes even both get there, but I agree with that totally. And I'm into the Westbrook and Davis both. I am deciding which one I like better. I like West. I mean, look, it's Westbrook's former teammate on the other side. You want a little narrative. Reggie Jackson, they didn't exactly get along perfectly when he was in OKC. It wasn't like they hated each other. They just
was it the Clippers? Was Beverly on the Clippers when he got his knee taken out?
But now Beverly, he was on Houston at that point.
Oh, okay.
But anyway,
but was Beverly on the Clippers?
Beverly was on. No, he was on Houston, and Westbrook was on OKC at the time.
Okay.
But I love Reggie Jackson, and he's going to be really popular. It's a gregreat matchup. Obviously, everybody says, "Oh, it's great to go against Westbrook." The truth is, Westbrook's hardly ever guarding these guys, but
he doesn't guard anybody.
Yeah, but the thing is, I mean, he does make defensive plays though. He rebounds the hell out of the ball, and he use the passing lanes. He just gambles way too much. But the Clippers are like, it feels like the right kind of night to play lottery. The Clippers are a team that I historically have always done really well with. The Lakers obviously is too, but it's really hard to figure out because the rotations are always in flux right now. They have a lot of different guys playing a bunch of, like right now I have one Clipper, Amir Coffey is the only one projected to play more than 30 minutes. It's unlikely that actually happens, but it's because of the way that Ty Lue is running his rotations. And anybody who wants to complain for DFS, you're just wrong. He's doing an incredible coaching job. The fact that the Clippers are are even like relevant without Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, and they're in the heart of the playoffs. You know what I mean? That's pretty amazing if you look at the rest of this roster. So I like Reggie Jackson. If Zubac plays, I'm more than happy to take some shots there against his former team. He's always played well against the Lakers. It's a good matchup in general. People think, oh, AD versus him. It's not just going to be AD for one thing. But I do like the Zubac, and obviously if Zubac is out, I think Hartenstein is a much more relevant play tonight than he was the other night. And you've got Terrence Mann at 3,800, Luke Kennard. Ranking these guys, I would go Jackson, Zubac, Mann, Hartenstein, Kennard, Morris. And Morris is affordable. But again, they're all sort of like meh plays for me. And the one who won't be, and the two that won't be owned at all will be Batum and Coffee. And I think they're both really interesting. I don't think that he's trying to split up the minutes equally. I think they're playing the hot hand. It's just Ty Lue's thing. He's treating it the best way you could treat an undermanned team, and they gives them a chance every night. They've got a lot of guys who are good at basketball, not necessarily great. That's one I'm gonna have to figure out later. I really don't have any other way of doing it other than what I just ranked, because it is a tricky spot, but I would bet you that at least 2 Clippers play 30 minutes tonight, if not 3 or potentially 4. And the minutes I just don't see being 24, 25 for everybody every night.
I want to ask you about a guy that I think you glossed over, whatever it is.
Yeah.
What's become of Clint Capella?
So they've been winning by keeping him out of the rotations a little bit more.
Is he starting?
Yeah.
So he starts, but just doesn't play like, full starters.
Yeah, and there's been some games where there's some reason. Mostly, I think it has to do with just the way the team performs in general, and they can use Collins at the 5. They play a Kongwu 20 minutes now because they really like a Kongwu as a real life player. It's interesting that every time a team starts to get hot, though, there is a thing where Capella looks all great and everything. I mean, it happened in Houston too. Remember, they traded him and he was like dominating. But he's an interesting wild card play. I
just see him under 6K and I'm like, whoa.
Yeah, it's interesting, and we're gonna have rooms to be creative. I'll be more prepared at 6 p.m. than I'm prepared. It's just there's a lot of question marks on this slate that are going to dictate the way it goes. Any of those guys like Murray or Cade or anybody announced out could really change this whole slate. So I think we're going to have to wait, but this hopefully was a good enough preview. And please like and subscribe and everything, guys. Check out the Discord channel. I'll attach everything in the chat. Sheets, anything else before we get out? Oh, actually, you know what? I should probably go through my.
Yeah, I'm going to give this out. If Trey plays, I like the Hawks plus the points.
If you play Trey plays, you like it?
I like the Hawks plus the points.
Nice. Okay. Well, I will of course bet Phoenix. What I would do is just keep. When Phoenix goes like this, I just want to play them until they lose. But I probably would like money line it and give up like the 160, 180 or whatever. They're really, really, really tough.
Well, we can middle it. You can lay the 160 and I'll take the 4 points and then we'll land right in the middle.
There we go. Yeah, exactly. We can both get there. All right. Well, so my main plays, Eubanks, Reggie Jackson, one of the Trent Van Vliet, Siakam, OG, at least one of them, running it back with one of DDR, Levine, or preferably Vooch on DraftKings, Levine on FanDuel. I think Bam, Butler, and Lowry are all in play. Again, is just going to have to see what else is out there by the time we get these injury things updated. And then whether or not Murray is a go, I like the idea of playing White and Keldon Johnson. Along with, then you have the AD, Westbrook, or Monk. I think you want to get one of those guys. I would include Carmelo, but it's a second of a back-to-back, and that's a little worrisome for someone at his age. He played a ton of minutes last night. And we'll get some more plays later on today. Just going to take a little while to figure out what's going to happen with this slate in reality. So anyway, anything else, Sheets, before we get out of here?
Nope.
All right. Good luck to everybody out there, and we'll see you at 6. Let's do it again.
Yep.